Alright, this is Chat UTD. The midfield seems to be the key area that we're going to strengthen over the summer, in the upcoming summer. The names that have been mentioned consistently have been Wharton from Crystal Palace, Anderson from Notts Forest and Baleba from Brighton. All players, I think it's fair to say, that are yet to have their big move in the game that's going to put them up there in terms of, like, this is a top class centre midfield player in the Premier League. And their next move will be that move for all three of them, I would imagine. Much like, I guess, like Caicedo when he was at Brighton, then going to Chelsea, although I don't think any of those three players are as good as Caicedo. Their next move will be their move that puts them in that spotlight. This weekend, a bit of a twist. We've been linked to Tonali from Newcastle. I must say, I don't think that'll happen. I think it's bullshit bingo season. If the club were as good at actually doing the things that they claim they're doing, and they spent more time actually working on those types of deals, then I think we'd be far better than what we are. But I don't think United will get Tonali for a second. But I'll play the game. Would I want him? Yeah, definitely. 25, different profile player to the three I've just mentioned. He's got Premier League experience at not the top echelon club in Newcastle, but a club that have been in the Champions League, a big club, big fan base. Expectations there are certainly higher than they would be at Crystal Palace, Brighton and Forest respectively, which is where the other three lads play. And from what I've seen of him, a really good player, and specifically a player that would play in that position, I think, where Casemiro plays. That's not to say that he doesn't break out and go and do things in the opposition half, because he does. He's quite a dangerous player. He's quite a threat going the other way, but he plays specifically as a shield in front of the defence. That's my understanding of it anyway. I might be wrong. Whereas I think with Anderson, he can do that. But if you're going to spend 70, 80, 90 million pound on a defensive midfield player, they need to be a defensive midfield player, not someone that you mould into a defensive midfield player that can do that but does other things as well. I mean, whether we like it or not, we live in a world where there are specialist positions in the midfield now. Like back in the day when it was Keane and Ince playing in United's midfield, they just take it in turns. One would go forward, one would stay back. Maybe we'll get back round to that, but United, I believe, need a specific defensive midfield player. And I think Tonali is more that than the other three. Now, 3 years ago, if you said United are going to go and get one of Newcastle's best players, there wouldn't have been a chance, I don't think, because of where we were and where they were heading with the new owners and the projection of where we thought they would be going. We wouldn't have had a chance to go and poach their talent, but it looks like they're not going to get in Europe this season. And if that's the case, they're going to need to sell some of their better players, because they'll have to obviously meet FFP criteria and the like. So there's definitely a chance, I think, for us to go and get him. And I don't think he'd cost any more than Anderson. He might cost a bit more than Baleba and a bit more than Wharton, but I think they'd be in the same sort of ballpark, but brings more experience, as I say, Premier League experience, upper part of the Premier League where Newcastle have been the last couple of years prior to this season, Champions League experience, European experience, international experience, and a player that I believe is an upgrade on all three of those ones that we've been linked to. I've said it for a while, we need 7 players, but I've specifically said we need 2 midfield players. But when I say we need 2 midfield players, we need 2 midfield players on top of what we've got now. Because we have 2 players in Mainu and Casemiro, who are, Bruno's different because he's an attacking midfield player. We need 2 more old school midfielders, if you like, to supplement Mainu and Casemiro, because clearly Ugarte isn't fancied. Casemiro is definitely going in the summer. Ugarte, I think it's a fair shout to say he might go. If those 2 go, you could argue we need 4 midfield players, because I think we need 2 now with the current squad. 2 of them go, you need 2 more to replace them and two that we need anyway. So we're not going to get 4 midfield players, but that's what we probably need. If let's just play the game again and say if we got Tonali, I believe he's a replacement for Casemiro. I'd say of the others, Balaba's a tap-in. Balaba wants to come to United. He's quite concerned that no other club seem to want him. He's not in great form. He's not had a good season, but he's a player of potential. So we could probably maybe get him for between 50 and 60 with add-ons. They were talking about 100 last year. That's not going to happen now. But if we could get him for between 50 and 60 with add-ons, I think he's probably a replacement for Ugarte. He's an upgrade, more Premier League experience, more room to improve, younger. So Ugarte goes out, Balaba comes in, Casemiro goes out. And again, I don't think we'll get Tonali, but let's just say Tonali comes in. Right, okay, great. And what else? We'll have Mainu. So let's say we need one more. Let's say we definitely need one more on top of that. I don't think we'll get it. We're playing in Europe next season, I hope anyway. You need 2 players for every position, really. But that type of signing, if we got Tonali, that's a bit of an Mbumo and Cunha profile of signing. That he's young, but he's not a kid. He's got very good experience. And I think he just comes in, he's ready to go. He's not a project player. He's ready to go. He's had his issues, obviously, in the past. He was banned for gambling, but hopefully that's behind him. I honestly think United are experts at spin. United are experts at bullshit. And as I say, if they put more time into actually making these things happen, we'd be so much better. The irony being, they obviously know the right things, what the right things are that we need to do, because they put that out there to the press, but then they don't do them. Or very rarely do they do them. There's a big opportunity here. I said this a few weeks ago. I completely scoffed and continue to scoff really at the idea United could win the league in 2028. I think it's a preposterous notion that that's going to happen with this ownership. But do you know what the annoying thing is? If we had different owners, I think it is possible. You have to forgive this phrase for those that know their wrestling. I used to love WWF, and I won't call it WWE, it's WWF wrestling. And there was an era called the Ruthless Aggression era. We need a summer of ruthless aggression. I said we need 7 players. That's on top of what we've currently got. If we lose 2 of what we've currently got, we need 9. You go and get 9 proper players, proper profile of player, pacey centre-back, right-back, left-back. As I said, now it would be 4 centre midfield players. Let's go easy on them and say 3 then. So let's say 3 centre midfield players, a left winger and a proper striker. So there's 8 players. You go and smash it out the park this summer. In one summer, you just go for it and get those players. We won't be far off. You won't need to do it again the summer after that and the summer after that and the summer after that. Then it's maintenance. We need one summer where we go and blitz it. But this board can't do that. They can't get any more than 4 or 5 in. So it's a shame because Arsenal, they're going to be the champions. Arsenal could win the Premier League and the Champions League this season, the 2 big ones. And I really don't think they're that good. If they're the benchmark, we're not that far off. They're not that good. City aren't that good. Liverpool are having a really poor season. Chelsea are Chelsea. They'll be there or thereabouts, but they're not threatening to do anything special. Newcastle, fallen off the face of a cliff. And it's difficult to get back because they're going to be out of Europe. They're going to then lose more players. Newcastle might just settle somewhere where they used to be. Maybe a bit higher, but not in serious contention. Villa won't be there sustainably over a period of time. I don't think anyway. So there's a United-shaped hole at the top of the Premier League, which is waiting to be slotted into. But we don't have the owners to do it. You go and get 8 proper signings this summer, and we're not that far away. But Arsenal, City, Liverpool will not stand still. This opportunity won't last forever. It's there at the moment, and if we were to capitalise on that this summer, we'd have a chance in the next couple of years maybe. But those clubs will correct what's there. They'll correct, I think, how average they are. Or maybe, to give a different view, maybe there's not that many great players out there, and maybe they won't do that, and maybe that opportunity is there for the next 2 or 3 years. But either way, we need to act on this opportunity that's there, because it is an opportunity, one that I didn't expect to show itself, but it has. There's no way after finishing 15th last season we should be in a conversation for a top 3 finish this year, but we are, and we haven't even been that good. So lots to do in the summer, and I think what I suspect will happen is, just looking at, let's just say, I think playing the game, I don't think this will happen, but let's say Tonali's 80 million, right? Yeah, Baleba, let's say we get him for 50. There's 130 million. I think United will spend 200 in the summer. There's 130 million of your budget on 2 players, and they're necessities. They replace 2 that are going out the door. So you level par now, you spent 130 million quid. You've got 70 million left, and you need another 7. You're going to get 7-10 million pound players. You're not going to do that. So what they'll do is they'll go, well, we've got a right back, he'll do. We've got a left back, that'll do. We'll make do. We've got enough centre backs, we can make do. We can put someone into midfield like a Martinez, or bring a kid through the system, and we can make do if we get any injury, suspensions, or lack of form, and we need competition for places in the midfield. Do we really need a left winger? We can maybe make do there, or maybe they would think that we striker, and then they go and get the left. They're probably more likely to think that with a striker, and then they'll go and get the left winger. But you're 3 or 4 short of what you need, because that's what they do. They'll make do. You don't win titles by making do. You go and be ruthlessly aggressive. As I say, you aggressively chase down what you need. You get it, and you speculate to accumulate. This board doesn't do that. Why go for the exceptional when the acceptable will do? But there's a chance there. Anyway, on to the more immediate things that we can do something about. West Ham away tomorrow. West Ham are in decent form, and Nuno's no muck. Good manager Nuno, especially at that sort of level. Forest, Wolves, he did a good job at both of those clubs. Didn't do too well at Spurs. Maybe that was not quite the right fit, but I think he could potentially get West Ham out of trouble. Let's hope it's Leeds that go down. And they've got enough individually good players. You've got Matheus Fernandes, who came from Southampton. He's a good player. Bowen are the 2 that stand out. There's more than that, but those are the 2 that spring to my mind. They got a point at Old Trafford earlier in the season. For some reason, their fans hate United and seem to think they've got a bit of a rivalry with us. So it's not quite like it used to be at Upton Park, but it'll be a big atmosphere. Quick turnaround in games. Obviously, we played Saturday, and we're playing Tuesday. Not a concern for most players, but then Casemiro is the one that probably stands out. Has he got the legs to do that? You'd hope so, on 300 grand a week. But just little concerns there, and plus we've dropped points to all of the bottom 5 already this season. And I think I'm just scarred by previous shit that we've been through in this last few years. And on paper we should win this game, and it's a big opportunity. But I always veer towards the things that I'm slightly concerned about, because I guess it pays to be a bit like that, and then you're not too disappointed if it doesn't go the way you want it to go. It's a big chance. 5 wins in a row. I don't even know the last time we won 5 games in a row in the league. Would it be? Probably. It's got to be Ten Hag's first season, or maybe even further back than that. The dude gets his haircut. 5 wins in a row, 15 points out of 15. You then, I think, with a 5-point gap between us and Liverpool, who are in 6th. I'm not saying we've nailed Champions League, because there's too much football still to play, but you're pretty secure in the European places, let's put it that way. bar some silly catastrophe in terms of a run of form. And looking at the fixtures we've got left, and I stressed this the other day, we need to just take one game at a time. There's again, like next season, like I said about next season and the season beyond that, there's an opportunity here for us. Get that 5 wins in a row. It's massive. So we're definitely favourites to be able to do that. On the manager front, Gary Neville on his podcast yesterday said something quite interesting. He was saying that he spoke to the club apparently, and they are starting the process now of looking at managers, profiling them, creating a portfolio. I think he even mentioned talking to some managers, and that they won't make any hasty decisions. They won't make any decisions before the end of the season. And if United do sufficiently well this season, then Carrick, if he wants to put his name forward to be a candidate, then he would do that, and he would be considered along with, quote Gary Neville, the likes of Tuchel and Enrique. We're not getting Tuchel or Enrique. Tuchel makes no sense because of the World Cup. We wouldn't be able to get him until, he probably won't be able to start until August. So that's nonsensical in that regard. And I don't think he'd want to come to us because he'd want autonomy, and he'd want to be able to, he'd want far more autonomy than I think the board would be prepared to give him. And I think he's quite a divisive character in regards to falling out with every board he's ever worked with, pretty much. I can't see that being a marriage, to be honest with you. Enrique, yeah, he could just leave PSG and start, but does Enrique want to come to Man United? Answering to Jason Wilcox, how much money are we going to spend in the summer? We can spend 200 million, get you 4 or 5 players, and he looks at it and goes, well, we need 9. He's a winner. He ain't putting up with mediocrity or acceptable will do. He wants exceptional. We can't give him that. So for me, Gary Neville has put out a soundbite on behalf of the club to make it appear that they're doing their due diligence. The honest answer is, the 2 people he's mentioned, I don't think he mentioned Ancelotti, I think he just mentioned Tuchel and Enrique. They're not options. The options United have are De Zerbi, Glasner, Iraola, Southgate, of people that aren't already there, I mean. And then you've got Carrick. Of those, Carrick stands head and shoulders above them if he continues to be anything like the first 4 games that we've had under him. I want to mention a comment that John made on my last video. John, it's nice to hear from you. I don't think you've commented for a while, so it was nice to see that it was you that had made the comment. And you said the one thing I'd not mentioned was the style of play, the freedom, and the joy to watch that United are under Carrick. To be honest, I think I have, if I've not said it explicitly, I think I've certainly implied it in other videos. I mentioned, I think it was after the Fulham game, or it might have been just before the Fulham game in one of my videos there, that I've got the United feeling back. And what I mean by that is, we've all, as United fans, I imagine anyway, maybe it's just me, but I don't think it is, we've all got this feeling that's unique to us and our relationship with the club, that for me, I feel the United feeling, and it's different to anything I feel about anything else. And it'll probably be slightly different for me as it would be to you, John, or as it would be to Language of Football who watches the channel, or Leon, my mate, who watches the channel, Leon's brother Guy. But we'll all have it. And it's been missing for so long. And you mentioned, John, in your comment, it's the best you've experienced United for the last 4 or 5 years. I agree. I've got the United feeling back. And the last time I probably had it was when Solskjaer was there for those first few months. And I think you look at the team in terms of the energy levels that they play with, the snappiness in the tackle, the aggression, the pace of their play, the one-touch passing, and that wasn't just like on the weekend or against Fulham, like over the month that started to materialise. That was happening after 10 or 15 minutes against City when he'd had 3 days with them, Carrick and the coaching staff. So without question, for me, it's a team with dynamism that expresses themselves, little bits of ingenuity. They've got a good shape, and at the moment you can't fault it. And I must say, I think without knowing what goes on the training pitch, I imagine that the paw prints of Steve Holland are on this as well, because he's a very, very good coach. And that background man, front man routine of him and Carrick, I think could work really, really well. I don't know anything about Jonathan Woodgate as a coach, so I can't pass comment on that. But Steve Holland's got a body of work as a coach, and he clearly is a very skilled coach. And I found out only a couple of weeks ago that apparently grew up round here and is a Red and used to go and stand on the Stretford end as a kid, which, I love that. Adds a little bit of a personal note to it. But absolutely, John, the football is so much better. The feeling around the club is so much better, and it's all good. So let's hope we can win again tomorrow night, keep that momentum going, because beyond that, Everton away, Newcastle away, are they on two next games after that? That would mean we'd have three away games on the spin if it is the case. They're tough games. And maybe they're the games that we drop points in. So just got to bank these points now. 5 points clear of Liverpool. Let's keep pushing. Keep. We could even start looking up instead of looking behind us, and really cement this place in the top 4. Which, if you'd have told me we'd be having this conversation 6 weeks ago, I said you're mad. So long may it continue. I think that's everything for now. Up the Reds, Glazers out.